Hi all, welcome and welcome back to my channel. Tragedy struck at the Virginia Beach Pier in Virginia on January 27th of 2024 when a car crashed through 3 sets of gates and drove off the end of the fishing pier, landing on the ocean floor. Police say it happened around 7 a.m. and a video of the car racing down to the end of the pier was caught by a teen at the pier that morning. Police say they can't get an accurate description of the vehicle from the video, but they believe it to be an SUV, and they have no idea who may have been inside. And even more tragic, days later, police have not been able to recover the vehicle from the bottom of the ocean because they say water conditions have been too dangerous and unstable to allow them to get the necessary equipment in place and keep it in place long enough to raise the car out of the water. And in a press conference update I'll play for you later, the lead officer overseeing the water rescue said they can't drag the car onto the beach because they'd be dragging mounds of sand with it, preventing them from getting it to the beach. Police say they have no idea how many occupants may be in the vehicle, but they received a call from the family of a missing man who they say fits some of the evidence they've been able to piece together so far. But without recovering the vehicle, it's impossible to know how many people are inside, or if in fact the driver was the missing man in question. Divers have gone down to try to see what they can, but they have very little visibility in the 15 or so feet of ocean water. And police say all they can tell so far is that the vehicle's roof is on the ocean floor, and they can tell which way it's facing. But they weren't able to make out a license plate or anything inside. And police say as much as they'd like to get into the vehicle to try to recover the passenger or passengers inside, it isn't possible given the amount of equipment the divers have to wear, and they have no visibility down there to even see the inside of the car. They also say they need to leave the car intact until they can recover it because it is considered a crime scene.
From Atlantic Avenue through multiple gates, police here in Virginia Beach say a car plunged off the 1,000-foot-long Virginia Beach fishing pier this morning, and it was all caught on video.
Oh my God. No way. Dude, no.
The moment a car hit the Atlantic Ocean Saturday morning, sinking to the bottom. It was just before 7 a.m. at the Virginia Beach fishing pier, center of the city's resort area, one of the most public spaces imaginable. Charlotte Murphy, a manager at Pier restaurant Ocean Eddies, arrived soon after for her breakfast shift and quickly found out what had happened.
The car came through here, through the parking lot, and drove through, and I guess it hit the first gate, and then it hit the second gate, and then it just drove right over the end. Never heard of anything like this in all of my 7 years. It's definitely the craziest thing that I've heard, for sure.
It is really hard to see how this could be an accident. Driving from the street through some pretty tight spaces to get across the boardwalk and then here to the fishing pier, and then from there driving through multiple gates to get to the edge. Still, police say it's really early in the investigation. Officially, they just don't know.
Part of us investigating is gathering more information, video information, with interview witnesses that saw what happened and try and figure out, okay, how did this happen, and also to who was in the vehicle and why it happened.
The investigation started with the pier taped off entirely, though police later moved the barrier up so businesses could open. Orange tape across the end of the pier, we spotted a trail of debris left behind as the Beach Police Marine Patrol headed to the site. Officers tell us sonar equipment revealed the car's location.
From the scans that we have, we do believe that the vehicle, we've located it at the bottom of the ocean.
The next step, he says, is getting a dive team down there. A fisherman who uses the pier tells me it's about 15 feet deep.
We're going to be here until we're able to accomplish our goal, which is to recover the vehicle and any occupants in the vehicle.
In Virginia Beach, Anthony Sabella, News 3.
At the fishing pier on 14th Street, first responders on the scene in boats used sonar to scan the water and locate the vehicle. But Brenya says that's just step one.
We have an idea of where the vehicle location is, but then now the challenge is being able to recover that vehicle from the water, and that's what they need to figure out what resources it would take to do that.
Police have not said who or how many people may be inside the car.
I walked out on the pier and saw the gates were busted down, and you could tell something tragic had happened.
Virginia Beach resident Dale Bozeman took these photos showing the broken entrance gates and possible tire marks on the pier. He got to the scene shortly after it happened, having woken up early to take sunrise photos.
Busted down 2 gates and then stopped right at the end of the pier and then drove off.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it that somebody could drive through that metal gate like that, through like butter. Just a sad situation.
We covered this midday on the pier crash investigation at the oceanfront. Virginia Beach police say they have not been able to raise the car out of the water due to weather conditions. That vehicle drove off the pier Saturday morning. Tonight on Your Sides, Chris Horn has been following this case since it happened, and he joins us live in Virginia Beach with new information on the investigation. Chris?
Yeah, Aisha, we did get an update this morning about 9:30. We're still short on specifics, but we are turning to zero in on what happened here when a car barreled through not one, but 2 sets of gates out onto the pier. That was Saturday morning about 7 a.m. We're going to show you video, and we will let you know that we will stop it before the car plunges off the pier, but this is what happened, and this is the reason why we are here. The Virginia Beach Police dive team told us yesterday the current was too strong for divers to go down and inspect the vehicle. We also got video from a submersible, an unmanned vehicle from the Chesapeake Fire Department, and it showed at least part of the wheel and the tire. Now, 3 different sets of investigators within the police department are looking into what happened. So here's the update from Virginia Beach Police as of 9:30 this morning. A family contacted them who has a missing male relative. That missing person has many similarities to facts and circumstances that the detectives have identified as part of what happened here on Saturday morning. Police say it's unclear whether there is a license plate on that vehicle, even with the aid of that submersible video. And once it is recovered, it will be up to the medical examiner to identify who was in that vehicle. What we're waiting for now, when can the divers go out? When can the recovery effort resume? They tried on Sunday. It was too dangerous. It was too dangerous yesterday. We're looking for calmer seas at some point in the near future so that they can go out and get that vehicle up from the bottom and find out who is inside.
Public, a new look at what's slowing down recovery efforts. In 2 videos posted tonight by the Virginia Beach Police Department, cameras underwater show the rough ocean conditions. It's hard to even see the car here. Investigators say they can't get any clear pictures or any identifying tags. But what they do know from sonar is that the car is on its roof, only making the scene more complex. Angelique Arantak is live on 14th Street where this happened at the oceanfront. Angelique, what's it looking like there tonight?
Yeah, Virginia Beach police officer is right next to me here watching over the area. A memorial with a note and flowers sits on the railing. At the very edge of the fishing pier, crews put up orange tape and yellow tape surrounds the second set of gates. All that said, people are still able to go into the restaurant and the storefronts in business here. Tonight, a spokesperson for the family who owns the Virginia Beach fishing pier says they're sending prayers and condolences. Since the crash Saturday morning, Virginia Beach police have not yet been able to recover the car or anyone inside. Witness video we're not airing shows someone drive on the Virginia Beach fishing pier, crash through the last fence, and plunge into the water. Sergeant Brian Ricardo with the Virginia Beach Police Department says, among other things, divers face strong ocean currents outside of safety parameters this weekend.
In no visibility in an unstable environment, it just adds exponentially to the problem.
Sergeant Ricardo says the department is working with Portsmouth-based Crofton Industries for recovery efforts.
My guys and gals are diving on scuba. They're diving hard hat.
Crofton's equipment couldn't handle the rough waters on Sunday. Weather conditions didn't improve much at the start of the work week. The Virginia Beach fishing pier usually kicks off the season on March 1st. The Saboni family, who owns the fishing pier, is now looking to open between March 1st and 31st.
They're already at work with contractors to keep the pier secure and safe for the upcoming season.
Dee Nachnani manages Coastal Edge. He's speaking on behalf of the Sabonis. Nachnani says they're still evaluating the scope of the damage and giving police the chance to finish their investigation.
Our condolences and prayers are with the family and with our community. We're all trying to heal and trying to move in a thoughtful way.
Nobody wants to bring resolution to this more than we do. And we are as frustrated as everyone else that we can't get in the water.
Dan, as you can imagine, Virginia Beach police are also trying to preserve evidence in this case because of the multiple challenges stopping them from moving forward on certain parts of this investigation. We don't know yet why the crash happened.
And Angelique, one more thing. If this car is unstable on the ocean floor, does that mean it has a chance to drift?
According to Sergeant Ricardo, no, but there is a chance divers could get entangled in the process because of the way the car is tilted upside down. He adds the car is rocking back and forth on its place where it rests 17 feet underwater. They're really relying here on the weather conditions to improve so that they can pick back up on those marine efforts, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen until later on this week. Live at the oceanfront, Angelique Arontalk, 13 News Now.
Okay, Angelique, you're answering a lot of questions I know a lot of folks had tonight. Thank you. Virginia Beach police are also using debris from the crash, security footage, and videos from witnesses to try and find out who that car belongs to.
On Sunday, people watched as a crane, barge, and tugboat tried to bring that car to the surface, but it was unsuccessful due to water conditions. On Monday, I learned what the new plan is for the recovery crews.
If I'm standing on the beach looking out, it looked very pleasant.
But Sergeant Brian Ricardo says looks can be deceiving. He's with Special Operations for Virginia Beach Police and says rough water cut their Sunday recovery efforts short. Cal Garman, who has his own towing company, says this sort of operation takes certain equipment and strategy.
About the only way to do something like that is send a diver down and have a barge in place in order to lift it up.
And that was exactly what was done on Sunday. Virginia Beach police reached out to Crofton Industries in Portsmouth, who had that kind of equipment. But there were other challenges.
They broke two bridles that hold their cranes in place, and they snapped a mooring line from the crane barge onto their dive boat.
Here's a sonar photo of the vehicle. It's currently on its roof and leaning towards the beach. Recovery crews tell me conditions are dangerous for divers on the dark ocean floor.
And the car's unstable.
Is there a fear that it can drift in the current?
No, but the fear is one of my divers is going to get entangled in the car.
Since video of the car's plunge into the ocean went viral, some people are wondering why a body hasn't been removed.
Generally, because it is a crime scene, we want to leave it encapsulated as best we can, because when you open up that portal to the ocean, we're going to lose evidence.
Special Operations are waiting on the okay to dive again from Crofton Industries. The next attempt could be either this Thursday or Friday. In Virginia Beach, Danielle Seda, News 3.
Also now at 6, a waiting game to raise a sunken vehicle from the end of the Virginia Beach fishing pier.
Police are now looking for a connection between this and another case as Mother Nature puts a stop again to a recovery effort. This tragic story continues to be watched by the entire area.
It has been a tough one for crews looking to recover a car more than a dozen feet into the ocean. The weather and waves have been uncooperative since the car went over the end of the pier Saturday morning, and it's expected to continue to be that way at least for another day. This comes as Virginia Beach police look at a possible connection to a missing persons case. 10 on your side's Chris Horn is back at the scene tonight. Chris?
Yeah, Tom, the new information this morning from Virginia Beach police was that they have been contacted by a family who have a male relative with a set of circumstances and facts that seem to line up with what happened here Saturday morning when the car went off the pier. Meanwhile, we spoke with someone associated with the pier. They've seen plenty of recovery and rescue efforts, and they are not surprised by the fact that Navy or police divers, I should say, and recovery divers are both being extra cautious. The two big questions surrounding what happened Saturday morning, and we will stop this video before the car goes off the pier, have been who and why ever since. But now a new question has emerged: when? As in, when can the recovery divers get down to the car and find whoever's inside? Peggy Hines has managed the gift shop here on the pier for 20 years. The slow pace of the Virginia Beach dive team does not surprise her.
We have had a lot of rescues off the pier and around the pier. There are huge razor sharp barnacles all up and down those pilings out there. If they got a diver next to it, they could get damaged or caught up on the barnacles. There are pilings that are down there that just fell over and nobody ever picked them up. They're just still underneath the pier.
Hines says there are hooks, nets, fish line, and other debris littering the ocean floor right off the end of the pier.
What we have heard is Thursday. That's the next time that we're going to have less wind, because we're supposed to have wind again tomorrow, and it's just too treacherous with the wind and the waves.
Meanwhile, people continue to leave stuffed animals near a message of support for whoever decided to go hurtling into the ocean.
We need to come together as a community and help each other instead of being like negative towards each other, and, you know, embrace everybody's different. Everybody's different.
And as you heard, it sounds like it will be at least another day, probably not until Thursday at the earliest, when any kind of recovery effort can resume. Meanwhile, of course, we will keep this story updated on wavy.com. Live at the oceanfront, Chris Horn, 10 on your side.
Police say their goal is the same: to get the car out of the water safely and without risking damage to the car or anything inside.
Yeah, but like Brenda mentioned, water conditions have a huge impact on that goal and on the safety of the recovery team itself. What may feel like just a normal breeze on land can make a big difference in the surf off the pier. Meteorologist Evan Seward is breaking down what caused these adverse conditions and when exactly we could see some improvement.
Recovery efforts for the vehicle that went off the Virginia Beach fishing pier continue to be hampered by what officials are calling adverse water conditions. So what exactly is going on? Well, we have some rough surf that continues here along the Virginia Beach ocean front, and it's just too dangerous for divers to go into the water. They'll be awfully close to the car. The car is close to the pilings of the pier, and you have to wait for specialized equipment to come in, cranes that have to lift that car out of the water. So why are we seeing this rough surf and these gusty winds? Well, part of it is the system that brought us the rain over the weekend. That's an area of low pressure that's spinning here off the coast of New England. That's working its way out to sea, but we have high pressure that is building in, and the pressure difference between the two of them creating the gusty winds that have been coming out of the northwest throughout the day today, and they'll eventually switch around towards the northeast, which will still give some rough surf conditions along the ocean front. Now, last night, the National Weather Service issued a small craft advisory for coastal waters. What does that mean? Well, a small craft advisory is issued when winds of 18 to 33 knots are expected. So what is a knot? Well, a knot is what we use for a nautical mile per hour. And a nautical mile is a little bit longer than an actual statute or land mile. So 1 knot is roughly 1.15 miles per hour. So that 18 to 33 knot is equivalent to 21 to 38 mile per hour winds on land. So again, we have the gusty winds that are out there that are hampering the recovery effort there along the ocean front. Now, it is called a small craft advisory, but the size of the vessel doesn't make any difference. It's just one of the criteria there that the National Weather Service uses, mainly looking at those winds, although wave height is also a factor. So looking ahead towards tomorrow, as that low continues to move away and high pressure builds in, the winds will diminish a little bit, but we still have small craft advisories posted for the bay and the ocean. We're looking at north to northeast winds tomorrow at 10 to 15 knots, but still 3 to 4 foot waves. So that is still going to be an issue. And then even though winds will diminish a little bit tomorrow, the next storm system is likely to bring stronger winds and higher seas as we head into the day on Wednesday.
Sergeant Ricardo from VBPD says his team expects better conditions on Thursday, but they'll be keeping a close eye in the aftermath of Wednesday's potential storm system.
This is a very heartbreaking situation for the loved ones of the passenger or passengers, and I pray that they get some answers soon. Waiting for safe conditions for the vehicle to be recovered has to be so difficult for any family who thinks their loved one could be in it. I hope they'll be able to safely recover it soon, so those desperately waiting for answers will finally get them. Such a tragedy. As usual, thank you so very much for watching. I hope you know how much I appreciate the time you spend with me on my channel. Stay safe out there, and here is the press conference update.
Can you just say and spell your name for me, sir?
Sir, title Sergeant, first name Brian, B-R-I-A-N, last name Ricardo, R-I-C-A-R-D-O.
And your title?
Sergeant.
Sergeant. And Special Operations?
Yeah, I work for Special Operations.
Okay.
I'm rolling, everybody.
All right. Going good?
Good. Sergeant, if you want to give us the latest on the recovery efforts and what you've determined as far as who might be in that car, how many people were in that car, whatever new information you have.
Okay, so I'm not part of the investigation team. Our detective bureau is handling the investigation. Actually, this is a three-pronged investigation. You've got the water component, which I supervise, the Marine Patrol and Dive team. We have our fatal crash team, or our traffic safety team, that is investigating the dynamics of the vehicle, and then we have our detective bureau, basically our investigative side, that's investigating the death investigation potentially. So from that perspective, I can't talk about where they are with leads, if they've made an identification. I just haven't been briefed on that this morning, so I'm not sure where they're at today.
Okay. Can you talk about the dive conditions?
Sure.
Coordination with Crofton, any coordination with Navy divers, anything like that?
Okay, so obviously the city of Virginia Beach has a memorandum of understanding with all the military, all the local military. If the city of Virginia Beach wanted to engage in requests for Navy divers, Coast Guard divers, any divers of the military, there's a whole lot of components that they're going to have to work through to determine whether or not they're going to come. So quite honestly, my experience is 15 years as the Marine Patrol and Dive Team Supervisor. I've worked closely with Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel with all of their vehicles that have gone off, because we've supported them in their efforts with Crofton Diving, and they're doing their investigation. So I'm familiar with Crofton. So obviously they're hard hat divers, they're professional technical salvage divers, whereas we're primarily recovery divers. So the difference that you have is my guys and gals are diving on scuba. They're diving hard hat, and so totally different dynamics. Now, what we have at the ocean front, if you've been around a long time in Virginia Beach, you understand that the oceanfront dynamics are far different than any lakes, retention ponds, drainage ditches, anything else that we have, even the Elizabeth River. We have different dynamics at the oceanfront. You're also going to have different dynamics at the end of the pier. Those of you that have been around a long time understand that the pier used to be much longer. We've lost a lot of the pier because of weather, because of storms, things like that. So we know that there are hazards just on the edge of that pier. So what we did on Saturday, call came out. All the public safety agencies plus a number of other agencies responded out to the pier. So from a decision-making point, there's a number of dynamics that I have to decide. But before I even got there, Virginia Beach Fire inserted rescue swimmers into the water. Their rescue swimmers, their mission is to try to identify the location and then, if possible, effect a rescue of anybody on the surface or subsurface. So that's what they're doing. By the time I got there, they had pulled their folks out of the water. Now, I know a lot of times you're going to hear about survivability in the water. Coast Guard uses that for when they're doing a search and rescue and a recovery. So understand the dynamics and survivability rates for the Coast Guard is for an adult in a PFD on top of the water, not on the bottom of the water, not in the dynamic environment that we have. So Saturday morning, air temperature, as you know, 50 degrees-ish. Okay, at the ocean front, it was much cooler. We had winds coming out of the north with the potential of a front coming in Saturday night, which we had. We have wave dynamics, but what you also have is you have a whole lot of shoaling right there at the edge of the pier. And we have what we know, we have two definite areas of current. You have an inshore current, which you report on all the time and do a great job with regard to riptides. Virginia Beach Life Saving Service, Virginia Beach EMS, Sandbridge Lifeguards do a really good job of explaining that. And a lot of times you guys will actually go to pains to explain to people that are not from here, okay, what you have to understand about the rip currents at the ocean front is it may be a beautiful 90-degree day, 80% humidity, total sun, no clouds, but we can't let you go out beyond your knees. Well, why is that? Because we have a rip current going across. And if any of you have been in the water at the ocean front and we have a rip going on, you know that it's going to take you off your feet.
Was there a rip current present?
So understand, once we get beyond that swimming zone, because that's really where the lifeguards are worried about. They're worried about the swim zone. So the end of the pier, 800 feet from the boardwalk to the end of the pier-ish right now, give or take a couple of feet or a couple of inches. That's where the outer current runs. So on Saturday, when my boats arrived on scene, the first thing we do is, because we couldn't locate the car, there were no fluids, no bubbles, no streams, no floating, no debris floating that would give us an indication of where the car may be. The first thing we utilized, my first two officers on scene of the boat, are using side scan sonar. So they're sonaring or using sonar operations to try to identify the location of the car. As soon as they pass in front of the pier, bam, we got an immediate image, and it's clear on sonar what a car looks like. And if we get a chance here, when you guys are done, I'll actually show you one of the images that we got from the car. That way you can kind of understand what we're looking at.
What's the depth of the water there?
It was 17 feet at high tide. At that time when it went out, it was high tide going into low tide. Understand that's a 6-hour period. We knew that low tide, slack water, was going to be at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So in that case, we're going to make some decisions. Now, the guys on the boats were able, my officers on the boats were able to tell me what current we had going, what the amount of current that we had, and which direction it was flowing. And so at that time, we had 3.9 knots of current. A knot is more than a mile per hour. So understand, public safety diving, all of my divers are internationally certified in public safety diving. That's what we do. We have some of the latest and greatest equipment. We're very fortunate here in Virginia Beach. We train with all the local agencies as a regional dive response. I had some of the most seasoned and senior guys that responded first thing Saturday morning out onto the boat. Public safety diving parameters are, we do not scuba in anything more than 1 knot of current. It's just not safe. It's not safe. So if you understand the dynamics, and I'm trying to explain that, is if you're standing at the ocean front and that current hits you and you get knocked off your feet while you're standing in your bathing suit, imagine wearing 90 pounds of diving equipment and being tethered to me topside so that I can communicate with you while you're down in zero visibility trying to identify a car in an unstable environment. You can't maintain your station. So I have to take all of those into account and calculate our risk. We accept risk as police officers, as firefighters, as EMS workers. We accept that risk. Anybody here in special operations accepts an additional risk. SWAT, bomb, K9, helo pilots, divers, even the traffic officers accept an additional risk because they're the ones that are out interdicting DUIs. So understand, we accept that risk and we know the risk. All of my officers are very well trained. The most senior seasoned guy I had doing the plan on Saturday has over 20 years of public safety diving experience. He is my senior team leader. He's a dive instructor. He teaches public safety diving to other agencies. So I've got these folks that are making plans while I'm standing on the pier going, can we do this? Can we do this? Can we do this? So knowing what I knew then, our friends in Chesapeake Fire, they had an ROV, basically an underwater drone. I called them and they brought their underwater drone out, and we actually underwater put the drone in the water. The drone was having problems maintaining station in that current, which means some drones, very big, military drone, under ROVs, those guys can maintain station. They can do all kind of things, okay? These other drones that are underwater ROVs that we use for public safety that we can afford, city municipal can afford, may not have that same station keeping ability. So understand, those Chesapeake firefighters that were operating that ROV were doing their absolute best to keep that on station. But they're doing that in zero visibility, and all we're really getting is their ROV bumping into the car. So we got zero vis, we can't see. But it's got a sonar, so now they're doing their thing with the sonar. So what we ended up getting as a total picture was, we can't see visibility-wise the car, positioning of the car, but from our sonar and their sonar, I think I'm pretty safe to say, and I don't think it's going to bother anybody, the car's on its roof, and the car's unstable.
Is there a fear that it can drift in the current?
No, but the fear is one of my divers is going to get entangled in the car. get entangled under the car. So again, our friends in the fire department, you have an overturned vehicle on a roadway, they're not going to work on that vehicle until they stabilize that car. Okay? It's going to be very hard for us in those dynamics to stabilize. So, but that doesn't mean that we're not still diving. We're continuing to plan. So the plan was we're going to plan out our dive until we can. So throughout the day, the plans were taking place. But because of my experience with Crofton and the service that they can provide, I made the call to city leadership and I said, look, we need to start thinking now about whether or not we're going to engage in a contract with Crofton and determine whether or not I can have Crofton coming out. Because the city doesn't have we've got lots of stuff. We just don't have a crane on a barge. We don't have that. Crofton does. Or other, other agencies here in the city, not public agencies, but commercial agencies have that. So I knew that we're going to be able to do that. Why? Because I can't drag a car 1,000 feet up to the beach. We just physically can't do that because all you're going to do is push all that sand in front of the car. We're not going to be able to do that. So all that's going on. Ultimately, the plan on Saturday was if we can get in the water, we're going to get in the water. So we used all of our intelligence from the morning. We used Chesapeake's ROV. That afternoon, we even said, okay, we're going to try to dive at slack tide, which would be, I think it was 2:55 Saturday afternoon. We're going to try to do the dive then. What ended up happening was in the immediate, we took our underwater cameras and once again tried to anchor a boat, put a boat out, and put our cameras in the water so that we could see something on the car. See in a window, see a license plate, see something on the car while we're working the problem. What ended up happening is the current didn't slow down for us to the point that I could put somebody in. It was still 3.2, 3.3 from 3.9 in the morning, had an outgoing tide, and now we were going to fight that little weather front that came in Saturday night.
So when's the next time you can do something?
So that was the plan for Sunday, and what ended up happening is we knew that we had to beat that weather front coming in Sunday night into Monday. That's when Crofton was contracted and they came out and tried to put their equipment in place. Quite honestly, from the beach, and I'll be the first to admit, if I'm standing on the beach looking out, it looked very pleasant. When you're standing on the pier, watching them 40 feet away, trying to put that barge in place, and the end of the pier where we're all standing is swaying because of the wave action that's right there in that shoaled area, I can understand people's frustrations as to not understanding why they couldn't maintain station. But to tell you how dangerous it was, they broke 2 bridles that hold their cranes in place, and they snapped a mooring line from the crane barge onto their dive boat. That's how violent it was out there. So
what about like the spuds that they used to pile?
So the spuds, what's interesting is they put the spuds down and they were still having a hard time maintaining station. Simply because of the wave action, we were not able to overcome the sets of waves that were coming in. And then once those cranes broke loose, I'm not a crane expert, once they broke loose, all I saw was things swinging and swaying, and quite honestly, it got very dangerous. I give them a whole lot of credit because they thought through the process and they tried to adjust 2 more times for us out there to get this done.
And are they coordinating with you or with Coast Guard?
They're coordinating with us.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a Virginia Beach event. However, Coast Guard Sector Virginia, we've been in constant communication with Coast Guard Sector Virginia. So they've been monitoring us. I give them regular updates, multiple updates a day. To answer your original question was when we plan, it's going to be weather dependent. Okay. So I have not got the call from Crofton yet, but I'm hoping to get a call here shortly to tell me when they expect the next break in a weather event. We know today's not good. We have small craft advisories today. It's dangerous out there. On top, it would be dangerous down below. And so then, we have to forecast out, or hopefully forecast out. And of course, we use National Weather Service in Wakefield. They built, what's really neat, they built a program just for the ocean front so that all of us can access that. For events and water events and everything else. So they built that for all of the events we have at the ocean front. And that's what I use as my tool to say temperature, winds, air condition or weather conditions, sea conditions, wave height, wave periodicity. There's a whole bunch of other marine things that I use.
You had mentioned a dimension of 40 feet. Is that where it is from the end of the pier?
We're
down
we're
15 feet.
So the guys are measuring it basically from the pilings,
okay.
Which are interior of the edge. So it's probably 30 to I would say at the most it's 30 feet from the inner pilings that are underneath the edge of that pier. So the pier kind of overhangs like this. So the pilings that go out, it's about 30 feet from there.
Are there any remnants on the floor
Absolutely.
of the old pier?
Absolutely.
There, and is that a complication as well?
That would be a complication for any diver because
Okay.
that risks that presents an opportunity for entanglement. And just as does an unstable car. So if I have a diver that gets pinned underneath the car, if his if his tether gets wrapped around an obstacle down there, then that means I have to send another diver down to try to disentangle that diver. So there's just a lot of dynamics. And in a zero visibility environment, it makes it exponentially harder. So I fully understand and I fully appreciate, nobody wants to bring resolution to this more than we do. And we are as frustrated as everyone else that we can't get in the water and we can't do something to get this moving forward. And trust me, it's not like my guys and I we've been planning out everything possible that we have available to us. And we're very lucky in Virginia Beach. Virginia Beach citizens, they pay their taxes and we benefit by getting some nice equipment. And we're very lucky in Virginia Beach.
So moving forward, are
Yes,
you
sir.
guys basically waiting for the call from Crofton to know when you guys
They
can
got to
pick up
give me,
operations?
correct. They got to give me a clear weather, and then we'll go out and support them as usual.
And where are they at?
They're out of Portsmouth.
Okay.
Yeah. So they have a dive boat that is home based here in Virginia Beach. So it's kind of an immediate response if they can send divers out. Because I'll give you an example, like Chesapeake. And I hope I can talk for Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, only because I've had so many incidents with them. When we have an incident on the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, generally Chief Spencer over there will make a couple of calls. He makes a call to Crofton first because they're on contract. After they've already made a call to 911, we support Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel. We are their marine component. We have an MOU with them. We understand that if they have a marine incident. So to answer your question, we're going to respond out there and we're going to support Crofton. Their dive boat will immediately get underway and start doing a survey just like we would. They're trying to locate the vehicle, locate any people in the water, do all that stuff.
So your guys are gathering information as soon as they can when it's safe to do so, and then they give it to the traffic reconstruction people?
So it's a combination. So
like we can see the make of the car, we can see the license
absolutely,
plate.
yeah. So
okay.
if we could go down and do that for them, because critical information that they want to know because they're crash investigators. We had debris, obviously we had crash debris up on the pier. I think I'm okay to say that. I think people saw that. I think that's public information. So we know we have crash debris up there. So what they're going to do is they're going to take that debris, they'll run it through databases to see if they can give an ID of the vehicle. So that's one thing they'll do. Obviously the crash investigators and our detectives will scan if we can get something from the crash debris and the video that has been shared all over the place. They'll go back and scan all of the oceanfront cameras, the interstate cameras, business cameras, people that have come forward to give us their videos, all that information. Yeah, we glean all of that information on the investigation side. When we get in the water, the first thing that we do is we report everything to them that we can see. So if we can see a tag, if we're no way we're going to be able to see a VIN unless I have an open door and they can see the decal inside the door. But usually if we can get a tag, then that's what we want to do. Now remember, it is a crime scene, and by the Commonwealth of Virginia, the law enforcement agency is required to investigate all medically unattended deaths. If there is somebody in this car, it's a medically unattended death. So that car is a crime scene. Anything around the car is a crime scene. So we have to maintain the integrity of that for those investigators, because quite honestly, we don't do that part. We do the recovery, we hand it off to them, and then let them do their thing. So in this one, it's a unique because we have all three teams. Usually we're doing something for the Detective Bureau only, or we're doing something for the traffic safety team if it's a vehicle in the water.
There's a buoy at the end of the pier. Is that tethered to the car, or is that just there for
No,
the marker?
I wish I could get it tethered to the car, but what we've been doing is we've been marking the front of the car. Because I can share this with you. This is not going to give, and it's not intelligence or anything. The car is, when I say it's on its roof, it's quasi on its roof because of the way that the bottom is there. So it's not totally
Kind of
flat
listing.
on its roof. So it's kind of listing. Perfectly great example.
Okay.
We know that the rear of the car is facing north, which is going towards the north end or 31st Street. And we know the front of the car is facing south or towards the jetty. That's the orientation that we can get there. So what we did is,
So it's listing toward the beach or toward the water?
it's listing towards the beach, and it's
Okay.
rocking
Okay,
back and
yeah.
forth on that, if you can call that an access.
Fulcrum or whatever,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So that's what it's that movement is going forward. So not only do I have that forward and backward dynamic,
Mhm.
I also have that potential side dynamic with waves going this way, current going this way, because our currents at the ocean front run primarily north-south. The wave action coming in this way, I got coming in from the east. The waves always come from the
And
east.
all those forces are dangerous to your guys?
Absolutely. In a scuba environment.
Right.
What's different is hard hat divers.
Does that mean hard oxygen line?
Correct. I'm
Okay,
gonna
yeah.
use the we've all seen Men of Honor.
Yeah.
Hard hat diving.
Okay.
Of course, that's 1950s technology. These guys have got 2024 technology.
Mm-hmm.
So that's exactly right. They're in pressure climate controlled suits, which means they're getting, like this time of year, they're getting heat pumped into their suits, so they're nice and comfortable. They're weighted. They're tethered to the dive boat or the barge, and they have a full-time supply of air, which means they're getting full air the whole time they're down
They
there.
can stay down much longer.
And they can stay down much longer. They're more comfortable,
Mhm.
and those guys are used to working in that environment. But the best thing is that they know the dynamics, so they can weight themselves so that they can remain upright and work in place.
Mhm.
And so there's the difference. My guys will be having to work, basically laying on the bottom, and they'll have to work like this, and then have to try to overcome any currents.
Mhm.
And then just understand that the normal current at the ocean front that we have that runs either north or south, generally on a good day, that current's going to be, maybe half a knot. So that's why we can have an open beach. So when Virginia Beach Life Saving Service shuts a beach down, they're looking at that current, and that current is pushing a knot plus, which means it's dangerous for citizens to be in, and it would be dangerous for us to dive in.
And you said lately it was, what, 2?
On Saturday, it was 3.9 when we arrived, and then by the time we left Saturday night after sunset, it was 3.1. And yesterday, it wasn't much better. It's still ripping, unfortunately, that little area right there because of the dynamics of the ocean front. And I can give you all kind of environmental things, but we have, like I said, we have 2 troughs at the ocean front, one that's inside and one that's outside. The one that's outside is caused by a number of ocean dynamics, in addition to the pier dynamics, in addition to the jetties, in addition to our dredging. So all of that causes that little trough. But what's been happening, because that pier is there, that sand is getting pushed up against that pier, and it's making that just really dangerous. So when you do soundings, if you go out there with a fathometer, one spot may be 5 feet, the next spot may be 20 feet. So it's just the crazy dynamics of the ocean front.
So if you were to predict when you guys might start operations again, you can't basically at this time.
I would say it would depend on weather, and I can't predict weather, but when I look at the weather models when I came out here just before talking to you folks, for me, weather looks better. Thursday, Friday, Saturday it's going to be cold, but cold doesn't really bother us. So it's just it's the weather dynamics. If we get winds, unfortunately, winds out of the north, winds out of the northeast, winds out of the east, winds out of the southeast are really going to impact our abilities to do things at the ocean front, because it's pushing that ocean water on top of the ocean front, or on top of the ocean. I mean the ocean front sand. So.
Do you know will officers stay at the pier kind of patrolling until the car is removed?
That's a decision above me, but the last that I was told is that we were going to maintain a presence there until we recover the vehicle. Now, that could change tonight, but what I was told when I left last night and what I was briefed this morning is we're going to maintain a presence there until city leadership and probably our chief and some other bosses and the folks that own the pier, the folks that own the restaurant get together and they make that decision.
Do we have any idea how heavy this car is and how heavy it is with and without water?
So that's a great question. So we would have to expect that a small car is probably 3,000 pounds. If it's an SUV, which it kind of looks like to me on some of the video that I've seen, 5,000, 6,000 pounds. And then you're going to add an additional, if the car is full of water, which we expect because it's not floating, you're going to add, exponentially a lot more depending on what's inside the car. We just don't know until we get the car up.
So is that where cables can snap?
Absolutely, cables can snap, and that's why it's dangerous. And I don't know that you guys were present during the recovery of the tractor trailer in June at Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, but we encountered a snap cable and a snap sling while Crofton was trying to bring the tractor portion of that tractor trailer out of the water the first time. So that impacted us back then. But absolutely, that entire evolution is one of the most dangerous things, not only that my folks do, but that Crofton does.
The last question that I have, is it possible that this car can roll onto the beach or even roll out?
No, it's what's happening right now. It's just like what's interesting again about our dynamics at the ocean front is a lot of times things that are there are going to get buried. So my expectation is that what we're going to see when we get there finally is we're going to see on the side of the vehicle that's facing our beach is going to be a void of sand. On the side of the vehicle that's facing the ocean is going to be a buildup, a wall of sand. So when they go to rig that, simply because of the dynamic, the wave action and stuff. So my expectation is that what we're going to see is they're going to have to, when they rig that car to lift, they're going to have to work through that sand to lift it. And that's normally what we see at the ocean front anyway. Any dynamic, even if we have a boat come up on the beach and it's there for 6 hours, you're going to see a buildup on the ocean side and a void on the beach side.
So the person is still with the vehicle or inside the vehicle?
We're going to presume that there's somebody in the vehicle until we can prove there's not.
One more thing that I've been seeing on social media, there's a lot of people posting a ton of negative comments about what they think the situation is all about. Can you explain why, and we probably know the answer, but why you cannot remove the body without the car?
Okay, so it's great. You know what? That's a great question, and I should have forecasted that question for you. So we've all seen crashes on the roadways, and the dynamic amount of damage of a crash on a roadway. I mean, you guys for the last couple of weeks have been showing the dynamic crash that was in the I think the Elizabeth River Tunnel with the head-on with the DUI. I mean, just look at that damage, that debris. So we know from the debris that's on the pier, the condition of the last gate tells us a lot about the speed of the vehicle. So we have to expect and interpolate that there's going to be a significant amount of damage. So if you've ever seen fire department do an extrication of somebody out of a vehicle, that's the same problem that we would run into trying to extricate somebody out of a car. One, I have no visibility, which means I'm trying to reach into something, try to get something that I recognize as maybe, let's say, a car door that's upside down. So now I have to manipulate that door, try to get through that door, which now is going to be a safety hazard for my diver because they're probably not going to fit with that 90 pounds of gear. So now all I'm using is arms. And I'm going to try to manipulate whether or not the person's got a seatbelt on. And then we have to presume, based on the front end damage, that our airbags have inflated. So because of the front end damage, and that's where the all the activators are for your airbags. So front impact airbags, side impact airbags. So they would have to work through that. So in good visibility, we would have to cut that and work through that if we wanted to extricate a body or anything in the car. In no visibility in an unstable environment, it just adds exponentially to the problems. Now, I can tell you that we've done vehicle recoveries with bodies in the vehicles in lakes and retention ponds in the city and all over the city. Generally, because it is a crime scene, we want to leave it encapsulated as best we can, because when you open up that portal to the ocean, we're going to lose evidence. And that's what we don't really want to do is lose evidence. But if we have to, then that's what we do. But I mean, it's the awful part of our job, because all of us want to go in and get. But we know as investigators that we have to make those tough decisions. But that's a great question, because just we have to expect there's significant damage on the car.
Thank you. Sorry, last thing. Do you know about how fast the car was going? No?
No, so that's what our hope is. They can interpolate some stuff, but what's interesting, if you've never been on the pier, because it's closed right now, it's covered in food. Saturday morning it was covered in ice. So some of that evidence that we would have out there is now dissipated because when it warmed up, the ice disappeared. Because I almost fell as I was walking out to the end of the pier first thing Saturday morning. So what the crash investigators will do is when they pull that car out, you know, all cars, all newer model, let me say that, 90% of the newer model cars will have the ability for us to take their module, put their module on equipment that we have here, and we'll be able to see seat belt, airbag, braking.
Yeah, the brake lights went on a couple times.
Yeah, we have some theories about the brake lights.
Yeah.
And then speed at impact. So our hope is, and I hate to say it like that because it sounds crass, but our hope is that we'll be able to see speed at impact at first gate, speed at impact at second gate, speed at impact at the end of the pier because it took out some of those pilings, or not pilings, but the railing, and then speed at impact when it hit the water. But it may be damaged already or activated and locked in place by the first impact. We won't know till we pull it out.
So that pier is damaged, right?
Yeah, let me think, obviously the gates are damaged, the entrance to the pier, kind of like, you know, where you would walk through to go to the pier after you leave the two other things. And then obviously the railing at the end of the pier is missing. It's where it was taken off. So, yeah.
Thanks,
Okay.
sir.
All right, gang.